Hi, Film Addicts. Welcome back for part two with Stephen David Brooks. Stephen David Brooks is a writer, director, and recovering VFX supervisor. I'm so dyslexic, so I hope I said that right. VFX, and his
visual effects.
Yeah, yes. And you are known for Heads and Tails and Flytrap, and the Grammy shortlisted music video "Deal Me In," and also the video for Little Steven's coolest song in the world by Tearaway's Charlie, Keith, and Ringo, featuring Blondie drummer Clem Burke. Is that Ringo's star that was on
there? Yes.
Oh my gosh!
It's a song. It's in honor of their great drummer. The Tearaways wrote a song called Charlie, Keith, and Ringo, who were three drummers who influenced Clem. Charlie Watts of the Stones, Ringo Starr, obviously, of the Beatles, and Keith Moon of The Who.
Oh my gosh, holy cow. And you have the drummer from Blondie. Like, we have so much to talk about. That's why part two. Thank you, Film Addicts, for coming back to part two. Because in part one, if you haven't listened to it, please listen to Stephen's part one, because he has his story with Betty Davis. And guess who hung out with Betty Davis having cocktails? Hello, Stephen, can you tell them who did?
Me?
Yeah.
And underage me.
Well, you have legal age drinking with Miss Davis.
Well, she would have talked the police out of arresting me, so it was fine.
So what was your cocktail? What did she fix? Did you fix the cocktail, or did she? Or
Oh, no. I forget what she drank. It was something it was scotch or bourbon, or I don't know what it was. Something brown in a glass with ice. I don't remember. She drank way more than I did.
And what was your drink? Did she make your cocktail for you?
Yes. And I would just sip it because I can't drink hard liquor.
Oh, was it shaken or stirred, darling? Darling, would you like it shaken or stirred? Did she say darling? Like, what? Was she just cool? Like, she was just,
She was very direct. She actually, to sort of pick up the end of the story, when I went to see her my last day of working at the Lance office, I asked her for advice, someone just starting out in the movie business, and she thought about it for a moment, and she told me three things. The first thing was, she said, don't let them underpay you. If they pay you a lot of money, they'll think you're worth it, which I thought was brilliant. Then she said, it's okay to be difficult. And she rolled her eyes and said, no, you don't have to be as difficult as I was. Because, she used to terrorize Jack Warner. In fact, she told me that she had already picked out her cemetery plot at Forest Lawn overlooking Warner Brothers so she can keep an eye on Jack Warner's studio. And the third bit of advice, to this day, I can't remember. And I just have this sense I'll remember it when I need to remember it.
Oh, beautiful. And then also she gave you a gift from my favorite director. You guys all know by now I was born in Italy. My mom is in Italy. I just missed her call. Ciao, mama. You got the ashtray from Fellini, the director Fellini, he gave it to Betty Davis, and she gave it to you to wish you basically good luck. You're going to do well as a director, writer. And you did. And that's such an amazing story. And people off camera, he told me a story. I'm just still laughing, but we can't share that one. But I have a visual in my head. So anyhow, I just had to okay. So we'll get back. So Stephen, when because this is part two, so some people might just be listening to part two, but I just want to just let them know that you worked for legendary. It's what's his name? It was Robbie Lance, right? Or
Yes, legendary agent Robbie Lance.
Yeah, who just had everybody, from directors to actors. He had Raquel Welch and the British actor. What was his name again? That gave you $100 bills because he was such a gentleman and charming.
Oh, Roy Dotrice.
Yeah. And then, since you're a guy, I'm traditional talk because I'm older than most of the people listening, the newbies. So I still, that's still my vocabulary. What was it like to see Raquel Welch walk into the room? Was it just bam?
Well, it was more than just walking into the room. Because when Robbie Lance came to town, he was worked in New York. His office was in New York. When he came to the LA office, I would drive him around town, and I drove him up to Robert Evans' house. That famous house that, if you watch the documentary on Robert Evans, the famous house that he lost, and then Jack Nicholson bought for him again. And it was for a meeting with Robert Evans, and Robert comes out to say hello to Robbie, and he was with Raquel Welch. And that was just a very brief, hi, how are you? That's all.
I met his son, and he had a car, like a convertible car with red leather seats outside of Sunset Saddle Ranch. So, yeah, really stories. So, okay, so then you went, so after working for legendary Robert Vance, then you worked for the visual supervisor company, right?
Yes, I worked for Apogee for legendary visual effects supervisor John Dykstra, who supervised the effects for Star Wars and won an Oscar, dozens of other movies, won an Oscar for Spider-Man 2, and most recently did the visual effects for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. All those shots of people driving through 1960s Hollywood was all John Dykstra effects.
Oh, wow. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Hello? You mean Once Upon Mr. Quentin Tarantino's film?
Yes.
Oh, yep. I met him and he was so nice to me. He was super nice, super nice. And he, of course, two directors, Quentin Tarantino sitting with Paul Thomas Anderson. And, my dog is like, I have a husky. And my friend, who's a director, just picked her up to go with his dog. So she just ripped the cord out of my thing. But yes, oh wow, that's amazing. So on part one, we were talking about your jump to directing, because you were doing second unit directing, and then you were doing the visual effects and you were writing. So can you share with us, before we ran out of time, we asked everyone to come back too. So your jump to directing your first film that was shooting in South Africa. And can you share with us that? What was the name?
No, that was The Mangler, Stephen King film that I wrote that was shot in South Africa. No, my first film as a director, Heads and Tails, shot in LA.
Oh, okay. So that's the film, Heads and Tails. Okay, so now we're
yes.
But and
the recap is it was a $5 million script. I was offered $20,000, a camera, and 90,000 feet of film to do it, and I said yes, and I wrote that script down to a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 movie. Shot it, started shooting. The financing never came through, so I put it on credit cards and was cashing credit card cash advance checks to pay the crew. I was running to the bank at lunchtime and that kind of thing, because everybody got paid. I never had anybody work for nothing. Made the film. First film festival I got in, Dances with Films. I won the audience award, and onward from there.
That's amazing. So, Stephen, so then can you share with us so you won the audience award. So what was it like? You had a investor that was supposed to give you the money. You went from $5 million to, what was the budget? It was supposed to be...
It was supposed to be $20,000 plus a free camera and 90,000 feet of film plus processing. So that would come out to about $50,000.
And then, so you did it yourself after that. So what was it reduced to, the budget?
Well, all in, it was about 25 grand on credit cards.
Oh my gosh. Was it like, you're making this film, you're like your first director film that you wrote, right? You wrote it as well.
Yes.
Right? Yep. And so, and what genre was this?
Crime comedy.
And so, and you had like your friend was Sherry. What was the casting director that you worked with on that one?
Well, my producer, Scott Putman, now ex-wife, was Shayna Landsberg, who's a well-known casting director. Most of the actors were friends of mine I had worked with before as a second unit director, and she helped fill in a couple of the other roles.
Oh, wow. So you did your film, and what, did any of them go on to be in TV shows or films? Did you like?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. The most prominent is the character who played Heads, Kevin Rankin, went on to, he's in a TV series now called called Claws.
Wow.
His most famous role was in the Dallas Buyers Club. Remember, Matthew McConaughey had sort of this sexist, racist friend with a big bushy mustache, his best friend. That's Kevin.
Wow, gosh, that's amazing. Like, you gotta, like, I tell people, find a director and support them and like be part of his team. Be part of his team because they're gonna take off, and they like working with people that they worked with. So you made your film, you got it in the can, and then did you get distribution, or you just started sending it to film festivals?
No, I did get distribution.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
And then you sent it to film festivals. And which one? Dances with Films?
Dances with Films, which is a pretty big LA festival at the Man's Chinese in Hollywood.
Oh, wow. And then you got the Best Audience Award. Amazing. Your first film directing out the gate.
And my first festival.
First festival. And a big one in Los Angeles, like a big meaty one, like with a lot, clout, And Betty Davis, she had the cocktail intuition that you were to be a director. Because she motivated, she basically told you, well, why are you working for an agent? If you want to direct, go direct, right?
Yep. Yeah. She was very direct, but she was right.
Did she ever direct stuff? Did she direct films ever? Or
no, no, just acted.
You sure she didn't direct the director in directing her scene?
Well, she had a lot of input to her character. She took acting very seriously, but no, she wasn't the director.
Yeah. I love when people really just, get behind their character and have a great point of view. Because my little knowledge of the shorts that I've done, I love it when, because I've worked with like difficult people and like people that didn't seem like they have a clue or cared or even studied their lines. And you're doing all this stuff because like I'm already writing, directing, producing. I found the sets, I found the locations, I'm doing the catering, I got the costumes. I'm doing so much. I'm on my own script supervisor, my own AD. And it's nice when people like just know what they're doing and have a point of view, because I respect them, because it's like, you're coming to the table and you're playing and we're making this thing brilliant together. I respect your opinion, but the other people that just didn't even know their line and were like just not taking it seriously and just not giving anything, and you're just like have so much work to do to just try to get a shot they can edit with. So I think there's something respectful. But when people were just difficult to be difficult, that like are more harassment and terrorizing you, that's a different story completely.
well, there are two kinds of difficult. Unfortunately, most people don't know the difference between the two. There are actors who are just difficult because they're insecure and they just want all the attention. They want the bigger trailer. They want the director to spend most of the time talking to them. That's difficult. There are actors who need to tear a character apart and put it back together, and who also test a director. And I don't mind that kind of difficult, because I will engage the actor and take them through their process to get them to the point where they're in the moment and can do the same. There's a famous apocryphal story, I don't know if it's true, but it's probably true, about what Marlon Brando used to do. When he worked with a new director, the first day, the first shot of his first scene, he would do 2 takes. On one take, he would try, and on one take, he wouldn't try. He would just phone it in. And he'd say, that's it, I'm not doing any more. And he would see which take that the director would print. If the director printed the one where he tried, he thought he knew the director knew what they were doing, he would try the rest of the movie. If the director printed the one where he phoned it in, he would phone it in for the rest of the movie, figuring, why should I try if the director doesn't know what I'm doing?
Wow. Well, gosh, I think it's wonderful when it's a collaborative and just everyone's coming to the table and just chipping in and putting in their best effort, because then it makes it fun, and then you want to work with them again and like again and again and again, and like the audience will go, wow, that's just so amazing. And it's so difficult, especially for independent short, whether you're doing a short film or a feature film, when you're an indie filmmaker or anyone doing a budget under like $1 million or less, it's just difficult, So if everyone could come together and pitch in and push in, then everyone I think will win at the end because you're making something that's going to be brilliant and like amazing on camera. And you know, like you said, like Clouseau, he wasn't the star, but he became the star because he showed up with brilliance, you know, and the director's like, I want more of that. And so he came to the table and he got all the cookies, and his Easter basket was just full because he brought so much. So I love that story too. So you did this film. It was kind of terrorizing. You were like making it on credit card because your investor called you after how many weeks were you into the shoot when the investor finally showed up and called you?
It was a 2-week shoot. At the end of the first week, he called.
And you're like, by this point, I don't need you anymore, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're like, okay. So did you end up working with that investor for the next one, or no? Don't call us, we'll call you.
No, nope. That was the last time I ever heard from them.
So did now? How did you do your second film? Did you get like what was the steps for your second film?
Well, another funny story, and talk about once again how luck meets preparation, I think is my mantra for show business, and perseverance. So after Heads and Tails, everyone who assumes you make an indie movie, win some film festivals, the doors are going to open, people are going to be throwing money at you, and you make another movie. Well, 5-6 years went by after Heads and Tails, or more, or I was saying 10 years. That didn't happen. Had some offers, things fell through. I mean, there's always something on the horizon, but to get something actually across the finish line is difficult. So I thought, I need to just shoot something. So I wrote a short called Binky for two of my actors from Heads and Tails, Billy Sly.
Okay, let me just see. I think we just lost Steven because we're recording live. Steven's coming live from Woodland Hills. He's called in by phone, and let me just see.
Dollars.
Oh wait, Steven, we lost you a little bit. So you did this short with Binky from your two actors from your first film, right?
It's called from Heads and Tails. The short's called Binky, 8-minute short with Billy Sly Williams and Lucy Jenner from Heads and Tails. Shot it in Billy's garage. For $200 because I rented a lens that cost $200, and finished it and played Dances with Films, played a bunch of other festivals, and was in New York screening it at a festival. And I happened to meet a lawyer I know there for a beer. He's not an entertainment lawyer, just a friend in New York. And out of the blue, he says to me, do you know a producer named so-and-so? And I forget the guy's name. I said, no, why? He goes, well, he wants my buddy to invest $25,000 in a film. Will my buddy get his money back? I said, no, he's going to lose every cent. And my friend goes, well, what if he invested with you and I throw in $25,000? Could you do something with $50,000? I go, yeah, I could make my movie Flytrap, which was budgeted at $15 million. So I wrote it down to $50,000. A month later, I had the money in the bank, and we shot between Thanksgiving and Christmas of 2016. Then that film went on. And what's interesting is the lead in that film,
Wait, we just lost.
The movie I shot itself.
Wait, who was the lead in Flytrap, your film?
The lead in Flytrap is a British South African actor named Jeremy Crutchley.
Jeremy Crutchley?
I met him in South Africa. He was in The Mangler, and he was a fantastic actor. And I said to him, one day you're going to star in a movie for me. And 25 years later, or 20 years later, he did, because he moved to LA. And so we made that movie, won a bunch of awards, and it got distribution, and now I'm working on the next one.
Oh, it's such amazing, Steven. Like, you're so amazing. Like, you're so nice and so darn likable. And the fact that, like,
it's an act. I'm really not that likable.
Well,
it's my podcast. It's my podcast persona.
It's your persona. I love it. Well, so and your films, like, your first film won the audience award. So you obviously that 8mm camera that your dad had that you practice on, and your passion, your determination, also your writing ability, because you were one of how many writers that Stephen King was looking at for his movie?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
At least 5. There may have been more.
There's probably more, but like they had probably not like knocking anyone down, because everyone's good at what they do, but like being the right, like Cinderella, like being the right glass slipper to match what someone's looking for.
Right.
You just
exactly.
showed up and you had the talent, and then you also, like you said, sometimes it takes luck, like just being at the right, the fact that you're able to meet someone who said, hey, let's throw your writing into the hat ring. So now, what can you share with us how COVID was for you, and then how COVID was, and then what you're working on?
Well, yeah, I had a big. Well, I never talk about what I'm working on until it's actually funded, so I'm not going to be specific. But I had a big meeting with a couple of very well-known producers in February about my epic fantasy. I won't mention the title because I'm also superstitious about talking about stuff that hasn't happened yet. But had a meeting in end of February, and it was going to be a part of a slate of movies. And then March, everything shut down. So everything was shut down for like 14 months. It's starting to pick up again, slowly coming back together. But it was just sort of a lost almost a year and a half.
Did you write it all? Like, what did you do during COVID? Did you write? Were you inspired?
I didn't write anything new. I did rewrite that script.
The Secret Project.
That's something that had bothered me about it. So it's actually much better now. And I spent a lot of time just on pitch decks, lookbooks, that kind of stuff. To be ready to go once the restrictions were lifted.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother meeting, pitch decks. And I just had like a big meeting. Like I had the big VP development of a TV network meeting. I think I bombed it, but the executive was so gracious, so kind, so nice. I think I got anxiety and I was obsessing, and like I just like it turned it into this huge big thing, and I basically I just think I just, self-sabotaged myself because I was so happy. And then I was just, so like pitch decks and like learning how to pitch and talking to executives to make it like clear and concise and short. That's a whole different thing, is talking to someone and pitching your idea. I think like I'm able to just write and do my work as an artist. And then when you have to talk to someone about it, I think, I just I don't know. Are you good at talking about your ideas and telling them to people, or is it like?
Yes. No, I'm very good at pitching. My first pitch was after the Mangler there was a bidding war between New Line and Miramax for distribution of the Mangler. I met Bob Weinstein, who was just going to start Dimension Films, and my agent got a pitch meeting with him. And I pitched my first pitch ever was Bob Weinstein.
Wow.
And if you can survive that and get Bob Weinstein to stand up and yell in a positive way, you can pitch anybody. The trick to pitching is you have to pitch something that they're looking for. You could have the greatest romantic comedy in the world. If you're pitching Jason Blum at Blumhouse, he's not going to care. He wants a horror movie. You got to know who you're pitching and have something tailored for what they want. That's the key to pitching.
Yeah. And like, I have kids content, and that's my dream, that there'll be TV shows and films, because like number one around the world, ranked top 1.5, my dream, directing and producing my kids content with a home. So that's my dream. But I learned so much, and I was, sometimes you meet these people that give you that kindness, going, oh, they have something, but maybe they need to just have some knowledge. They can come back better and stronger. Because I did read that some people bomb their first pitch and they come back and their second or third pitch gets picked up. And but for you, like, you're just so amazing and everything. So and Stephen, do you have a forte of what you write? Comedy, thriller, or are you just
I kind of know all the genres. When an idea hits me, I sort of pick the right genre for it. So, I mean, that's good and it's bad. Because after The Mangler, my agent at the time read my new scripts and said, "These are not horror." I go, "Yeah, I know." He goes, "Well, you're a horror writer. You have to write horror." I go, "Well, I'm not a horror writer. I'm a writer." So there is something to be said for mastering a genre, and just because Hollywood wants to pigeonhole you, I just can't do that. I write whatever the story needs to be. The story tells me what the genre should be.
Yeah, like I love screwball comedy. Like I'm a screwball comedy, and like when you have a kids podcast, especially, they only can hear it like the audio. So I try to make it as fun as possible and make it entertaining. So yeah, because so most of my stories are furry animals, cheeky furry animals, and they have learning songs and songs. So I want to ask you, Stephen, like your directing style, do you have a directing style, or like how do how do you come to a project as a director? You storyboard, obviously, right? Do you storyboard everything before you?
No.
You don't?
No, I do not storyboard.
You don't?
No. If it's a visual effects sequence, you have to storyboard it for budgeting. No, I don't storyboard it because I don't. A lot of directors will have a shot in mind and stage the action to the shot. I don't do that. I have a plan. I know how I'm going to shoot a scene, but then I let the actors feel out the space and try to get a sense of movement. And then once I have the staging, I adjust the shooting plan to the staging. Because I think it's artificial to have actors try to be in a shot when they really should be interacting with the other actors.
Amazing. So you have your shot list, right? And so you let it you let the environment
of course.
speak. You let the environment dictate it. And how are you with the modern, do you like the green screens? Do you like the drones? Do you like any of that? Or how is that,
Well, because I come from visual effects, so I have no fear of visual effects. I've done a lot of, I'll give you a great example that I did a music video for this band, the Tearaways. I forget what song, but we were at SIR Sound on their rehearsal stage, shooting the band playing live, and one of the band members couldn't make it that day. So I just said, fine, I'll green screen him in. So we shot the entire music video without that guy. And then I went to a green screen stage with just that guy, and I shot him green screen and dropped him into the shot, and no one knows that he wasn't really there.
I love that. I love that.
So for visual effects as a tool, and because I've learned from the best, like John Dykstra, I can visualize the final shot just seeing the pieces to make sure everything's shot properly so that it goes together.
So Stephen, we're almost out of time. 2 minutes. So Flytrap is streaming everywhere: IMDb, TV, Tubi, Google Play, iTunes, and check out Stephen David Brooks' YouTube channel, Stephen David Brooks. I'll be in the summary. And Stephen, where can they keep up with you and find out what you're working on? YouTube, Facebook, social media?
Yeah, so my YouTube channel is Stephen David Brooks, and my website is stephendavidbrooks.com. And that's pretty much where everything is.
Okay, and then so we have a couple minutes to talk about your music video real quick. We have literally less than 2 minutes. If you want to share your awesome music video with the Beatles and everyone, drummer from Blondie.
You mean Charlie, Keith, and Ringo?
Yeah.
So we were actually shooting a documentary, which I'm still shooting, a year and a half ago. The band was recording at Village Recorders in Santa Monica, a legendary studio where Fleetwood Mac and Talking Heads and a bunch of other people recorded. And I was shooting the recording session for a documentary about the band, the Tearaways, and COVID hit. And they didn't go back until 2 weeks ago to record the second half of the album. So the documentary was on hold. But I had all this footage of Clem playing Charlie, Keith, and Ringo. So we said, let's just do a music video. So, I took clips of Keith Moon, Ringo Starr, Charlie Watts. I played with the time, the frame rates and so on, reflected them in the glass, so it looks like Clem is playing alongside them. They're playing the drum tracks with him. It's actually, on my YouTube channel, just look up Charlie, Keith, and Ringo, or Google it, and you'll see the video. It's pretty cool.